through discipline practiced on ordinary days, and through responsibility taken without complaint. A rebuilt life is not created by chance. It is built deliberately, brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. You don't need permission to begin. You don't need perfect confidence or complete clarity. What you need is the willingness to take ownership of where you are, and the courage to move forward anyway. If you are ready to stop drifting, stop waiting, and start building with intention, then you are exactly where you need to be. Let's begin. Number 1. Stop lying to yourself about where you are. Rebuilding your life begins with one uncomfortable decision: telling yourself the truth. Not the polished version, not the excuse-filled version, the honest version. Because no progress is possible while you are negotiating with reality. You cannot fix what you refuse to face, and you cannot change what you keep explaining away. Lying to yourself doesn't always sound dramatic. Sometimes it sounds reasonable. I'm just tired. This phase will pass. I'll deal with it later. But later quietly turns into years. And before you know it, you're not where you thought you'd be. Not financially, not emotionally, not mentally, not physically. That gap between where you are and where you expected to be is not bad luck. It's information. This is the moment where many people soften the truth to protect their feelings. They blame circumstances, people, timing, or bad breaks. But rebuilding your life requires a stronger posture. It requires the courage to say, this is my current position, whether I like it or not. No drama, no self-attack, just facts. Facts are not enemies. Facts are tools. You are not weak for being behind. You are weak only if you pretend you're not. Strength begins the instant you stop pretending. When you clearly see your habits, your decisions, your patterns, something powerful happens. You gain control. Clarity gives you leverage. Confusion keeps you stuck. Take a clear look at your daily life. How you spend your time. What you avoid. What drains you. What you tolerate. What you keep postponing. This is not about judgment. It's about awareness. A builder doesn't guess where the foundation is cracked. He inspects it carefully, because anything built on a weak foundation will eventually collapse. Many people want to rebuild their life without confronting their role in its current condition. That doesn't work. Responsibility is not punishment, it's freedom. The moment you accept that your choices brought you here is the same moment you realize your choices can take you somewhere else. Be honest about what you've been doing when no one was watching. Honest about how disciplined you've been. Honest about the standards you've allowed to slip. Honest about the effort you avoided. This honesty is not meant to discourage you. It's meant to wake you up. Rebuilding starts the day excuses end. Not because life has been easy, but because you are ready to be stronger than your circumstances. You don't need to exaggerate your problems, and you don't need to minimize them either. See things as they are. Stand where you truly stand. When you stop lying to yourself, you stop wasting energy defending a false version of your life. That energy becomes available for progress. And progress, even slow progress, changes everything. This chapter is not about fixing anything yet. It's about seeing clearly. Because once you tell yourself the truth, you don't need motivation anymore. Truth creates urgency. And urgency, when guided by discipline, becomes the starting point of a rebuilt life. Number 2. Decide that this version of you is no longer acceptable. There comes a moment in every serious rebuild when awareness is no longer enough. You can see the truth, you can admit where you stand, but nothing changes until you make a decision that carries weight. Not a wish, not a hope, a decision. The kind of decision that quietly closes the door on who you've been and opens the door to who you must become. Rebuilding your life does not begin with tactics. It begins with identity. You don't rise because you learn something new. You rise because you refuse to stay where you are. At some point, you have to look at your current habits, your current effort, your current standards, and say, this version of me is not acceptable anymore. Not with anger, with resolve. Many people drift because they tolerate too much from themselves. They tolerate inconsistency. They tolerate half-effort. They tolerate broken promises they keep making to their own future. And every time they tolerate it, they teach themselves a dangerous lesson. That it's okay to stay the same. Rebuilding requires you to unlearn that lesson. This decision is not dramatic. There is no applause, no announcement. It happens quietly, often when no one is watching. It happens when you realize that comfort has started to cost you your self-respect. And once self-respect erodes, motivation doesn't stand a chance. Deciding that this version of you is no longer acceptable does not mean hating yourself. It means respecting yourself enough to demand more. It means recognizing your potential and refusing to insult it with laziness, excuses, or delay. You are not starting from scratch. You are starting from experience. And experience should raise your standards, not lower them. From this point forward, you begin to measure your actions differently. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" and start asking, "Is this who I'm committed to becoming?" That shift changes everything. It turns discipline into identity. It turns effort into alignment. Understand this clearly. You will not rebuild your life by waiting for confidence. Confidence follows action. You will not rebuild your life by waiting for clarity. Clarity follows movement. The decision comes first. Action follows, belief catches up later. This chapter is about drawing a line in the sand, about saying, "I'm done negotiating with my weaker self." You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be extreme. You just need to be firm. Firm with your time, firm with your energy, firm with your standards. There will be days when the old version of you tries to return. That's normal. Habits don't disappear just because you made a decision. But the difference now is this. You no longer identify with that version. You don't argue with it. You don't entertain it. You move forward anyway. Rebuilding your life accelerates the moment your identity becomes stronger than your excuses. When you decide that who you've been is no longer acceptable, you automatically create space for who you're becoming. This is not a one-time choice. It's a daily reaffirmation. Every day through your actions, you vote for the person you are rebuilding. Make sure your vote is clear. Number 3, cut the leaks that are draining your energy. Before you try to build anything new, you must stop what's quietly draining you every day. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because their energy is leaking in 100 small, invisible ways. And no matter how motivated you feel, a life built on constant energy loss will always collapse under pressure. Energy is your most valuable resource. Not time, not money. Energy. Because without energy, time is wasted and money is misused. When your energy is low, discipline feels impossible, focus disappears, and even simple tasks feel heavy. That's why rebuilding your life requires you to first protect your energy like something sacred. Energy leaks don't always look dangerous. Some of them look harmless, endless scrolling, conversations that go nowhere, staying around people who constantly complain, doubt, or drain you emotionally, saying yes when you should say no, carrying guilt that no longer serves a purpose, thinking about the same problems without taking action. These things don't destroy you loudly. They wear you down quietly. You don't need to fix everything at once, but you do need awareness. Start noticing what leaves you feeling tired without moving you forward. Notice what you consume mentally, what you listen to, what you watch, what you allow into your thoughts. Your mind cannot stay strong if it's constantly fed weakness, noise, and distraction. Some leaks come from your environment. A messy space creates a messy mind. A chaotic routine creates scattered thinking. When everything around you is unstructured, your energy is constantly being pulled in different directions. Rebuilding your life means simplifying your surroundings so your energy has somewhere productive to go. Other leaks come from people. This is not about cutting everyone off. It's about boundaries. You cannot rebuild your life while trying to carry everyone else's emotional weight. You are not responsible for fixing people who refuse to change. Protecting your energy does not make you selfish. It makes you effective. Then there are the internal leaks. The habits of thought that drain you before the day even begins. Overthinking the past. Worrying about outcomes you can't control. Mentally rehearsing failure. These patterns steal energy without producing solutions. Rebuilding requires mental discipline, not constant mental noise. Here's a simple truth. You don't need more energy, you need fewer leaks. When you stop bleeding energy, you suddenly feel stronger without doing anything dramatic. Focus improves. Willpower lasts longer. Discipline feels more natural. That's not magic. That's conservation. Cutting leaks may feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel bored without constant stimulation. You may feel guilty for setting boundaries. You may feel uneasy sitting with your thoughts instead of escaping them. That discomfort is not a sign of loss. It's a sign of adjustment. Rebuilding your life is not about adding more pressure. It's about removing unnecessary weight. Every leak you close gives you back a piece of yourself. And when enough of those pieces return, momentum begins to build. Protect your energy and rebuilding becomes possible. Waste it and nothing you try will ever last. Number 4. Reclaim control through boring, consistent action. If rebuilding your life depended on excitement, most people would never succeed. Real change does not come from intensity, it comes from consistency. And consistency is rarely thrilling. It is quiet, repetitive, and often invisible to everyone except the person doing the work. That is why so few people stick with it and why it works. Control is not something you feel, it's something you practice. You reclaim control of your life by doing small, necessary actions, whether you feel motivated or not. Waiting to feel ready is how people stay stuck. Action is what creates readiness, not the other way around. Boring action is powerful because it removes drama from progress. There is no emotional negotiation, no long speeches to yourself. Just simple commitments kept day after day. Wake up at a set time. Do the work you said you would do. Finish small tasks completely. These things may not impress anyone, but they rebuild something far more important: self-trust. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, you send a message to your mind that you can be relied on. Every time you break one, you weaken that message. Rebuilding your life means restoring trust with yourself, and trust is rebuilt through consistency, not inspiration. Many people search for the perfect plan, the perfect routine, the perfect strategy. But perfection is often just procrastination in disguise. You don't need the best system. You need a system you will actually follow. Progress comes from repetition, not optimization. Consistency also creates emotional stability. When your actions are predictable, your emotions settle down. You stop riding highs and lows. You stop depending on mood. You move forward whether the day feels good or bad. That steadiness is what turns effort into momentum. This chapter is not about doing more. It's about doing less, better, and more often. One workout done regularly beats extreme workouts done rarely. 1 hour of focused work beats long days of distracted effort. One honest conversation beats weeks of avoidance. Simple actions, repeated consistently, compound quietly. There will be days when the work feels meaningless. Days when nothing seems to change. That is part of the process. Progress often happens below the surface before it shows up in results. If you quit too early, you miss the moment when consistency starts paying you back. Rebuilding your life is not about proving anything to others. It's about proving something to yourself, that you can show up without drama, without excuses, without needing to feel inspired, that you can do what needs to be done simply because it needs to be done. When you commit to boring, consistent action, you take your power back. Life stops feeling chaotic. Decisions become easier. Confidence grows quietly. Control returns not all at once, but steadily. This is how rebuilding actually works. Not through big moments, but through small actions done faithfully. And when those actions become part of who you are, your life begins to change in ways that finally last. Number 5, build one non-negotiable daily anchor. When your life feels unstable, it's not because everything is broken. It's because nothing is anchored. Rebuilding does not require fixing every area at once. That comes later. What it requires now is one solid point of control, one daily action so consistent that no matter how chaotic the rest of the day becomes, you know you still showed up. An anchor is not a long checklist. It is not an extreme routine. It is one simple, repeatable action that grounds your day. Something you do whether the day goes well or badly. Something you do whether you feel confident or unsure. When everything else feels uncertain, your anchor reminds you that discipline still exists in your life. Many people try to rebuild their life by changing everything at once. New habits, new goals, new schedules. That usually collapses under its own weight. Rebuilding works best when it starts small and solid. One anchor creates stability. Stability creates momentum. Momentum makes change sustainable. Your anchor should be practical and meaningful. It could be focused work, physical movement, planning your day, quiet reflection, skill practice. What matters is not what it is, but that it happens every single day. No negotiation, no delay, no excuses. The power of an anchor is not in the action itself. It's in what it represents. It tells your mind, no matter what happens, I keep my word to myself. That message rebuilds confidence faster than any motivational speech ever could. Confidence grows when behavior becomes reliable. There will be days when your anchor feels small, almost insignificant. You'll wonder how this one habit could possibly rebuild your life. But anchors don't change your life in a day. They change how you show up every day, and how you show up daily determines everything. On difficult days, your anchor keeps you from spiraling. On good days, it keeps you grounded. It prevents extremes. It creates rhythm. And rhythm is what carries you forward when motivation disappears. Choose your anchor carefully. It should challenge you just enough to require effort, but not so much that you avoid it. If it's too easy, it won't shape you. If it's too hard, it won't last. The right anchor feels simple but meaningful. Once the anchor is set, protect it. Treat it as non-negotiable. You can move it. You can shorten it, but you do not skip it. Skipping teaches your mind that discipline is optional. Keeping it teaches your mind that discipline is part of who you are now. As days stack up, something subtle happens. You start trusting yourself again. You stop feeling scattered. You feel more in control, even if the rest of your life hasn't fully caught up yet. That's because identity is shifting before results appear. Rebuilding your life is not about doing everything right. It's about doing one thing right consistently. Build your day around one anchor, and the rest of your life will slowly organize itself around that discipline. One anchor, every day. That's how stability returns. Number 6. Stop negotiating with your weakest moments. Rebuilding your life requires more than good intentions. It requires you to recognize when you are most vulnerable, and stop making decisions in those moments. Weak moments are not failures. They are predictable. And anything predictable can be managed. If you choose discipline over negotiation. Negotiation is what happens when you start arguing with yourself. Just today. I'll make up for it tomorrow. I deserve a break. These thoughts don't appear when you're strong. They appear when you're tired, bored, lonely, or overwhelmed. And if you let those moments decide for you, they will always choose comfort over progress. The strongest people are not those who never feel weak. They are the ones who stop listening to weakness when it starts talking. They understand that emotions change, but decisions carry consequences. So instead of debating, they default to structure. This chapter is about ending inner debates, not by forcing yourself, but by preparing in advance. When you decide ahead of time what you will do, you remove the need for willpower. You don't ask how you feel, you follow the plan. Weak moments feel convincing because they sound logical. They appeal to fairness, fatigue, and emotion. But logic in a weak state is not wisdom. It is self-protection disguised as reason. Rebuilding your life means learning to recognize that voice and refuse to follow it. One of the most powerful tools you can develop is the ability to pause, not to think longer, but to stop the conversation entirely. When you feel the urge to avoid, delay, or escape, don't analyze it. Act immediately on what you already know is right. Speed defeats negotiation. Another key is environment. Weak moments gain strength when your environment supports them. Easy access to distractions, comfort, or excuses makes discipline harder. Change the environment, and you reduce the number of decisions you have to fight. Understand this: you are not always in the best position to decide what's good for you. That's not a flaw. That's human nature. That's why rules, routines, and commitments exist. They protect you from yourself when you are tired or emotional. This is not about being harsh. It's about being clear. Clear standards reduce stress. When you know what the answer is before the question appears, peace replaces confusion. You stop feeling guilty. You stop feeling torn. You just move forward. There will still be resistance. That doesn't disappear. But resistance loses its power when it no longer controls your behavior. You can feel tired and still act. You can feel unsure and still proceed. Discipline is not the absence of weakness. It's action despite it. Rebuilding your life accelerates when you stop negotiating with moments that don't have your future in mind. The future you are building deserves decisions made from strength, not from fatigue. When weak moments no longer get a vote, your life begins to move in a new direction, steadily, quietly, and with purpose. Number 7. Learn to stay calm while doing difficult things. Rebuilding your life is not just about taking action. It's about how you carry yourself while taking that action. Anyone can push hard when emotions are high. Very few people can stay calm while doing difficult, uncomfortable work. And that calmness is what separates lasting change from temporary effort. When people struggle, they often add unnecessary tension. They rush. They panic. They overreact to setbacks. They turn every challenge into a crisis. That emotional noise drains energy and shortens endurance. Rebuilding requires a different approach. Steady, controlled, and deliberate. Calm is not weakness. Calm is control. When you remain calm, you think clearly. You conserve energy. You recover faster. You stop wasting effort on emotional reactions that don't move you forward. Difficulty becomes manageable when it is met with composure. This chapter is about learning to do hard things without turning them into dramatic battles. You don't need to motivate yourself aggressively. You don't need to punish yourself. You need to show up with steadiness. Quiet effort lasts longer than emotional intensity. There will be discomfort. That's unavoidable. Growth always asks for discomfort. But discomfort does not require chaos. You can feel resistance without arguing with it. You can feel fear without feeding it. You can feel pressure without letting it control your behavior. Staying calm during difficulty is a skill. And like any skill, it is developed through repetition. Each time you choose to slow your breathing, focus on the task, and move forward anyway, you strengthen that ability. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes familiar. Calmness also protects your judgment. When emotions spike, people make poor decisions. They quit too early. They overcorrect. They burn out. When you stay calm, you can adjust without abandoning the process. You can respond instead of react. This chapter also reminds you that rebuilding your life is not an emergency. Urgency is useful, but panic is not. Panic creates shortcuts. Shortcuts lead back to old patterns. Calm effort keeps you aligned with your long-term direction. There will be moments when progress feels slow. Calm allows you to stay patient. There will be moments when others doubt you. Calm allows you to stay focused. There will be moments when results lag behind effort. Calm allows you to keep going. The ability to remain calm while doing difficult things builds inner strength. That strength does not announce itself. It shows up as reliability. People begin to trust you not because you talk big, but because you remain steady under pressure. Rebuilding your life is not about forcing change through intensity. It's about creating change through composure. Calm effort is sustainable. Calm discipline is powerful. Calm action compounds. When you master calm under difficulty, you stop fearing hard work. You stop avoiding challenge. You stop being shaken by resistance. You become grounded, capable, and steady. And that steadiness becomes one of the strongest foundations of your rebuilt life. Number 8. Raise your self-respect before you chase success. Before you chase bigger goals, you must restore something more important: your self-respect. Success without self-respect feels empty, unstable, and fragile. But when self-respect is strong, progress becomes natural. You don't need to force discipline. You act a certain way because that's who you are now. Self-respect is not confidence. Confidence comes and goes. Self-respect is quieter and deeper. It is how you treat yourself when no one is watching. It is whether you keep your word, whether you follow through, whether you hold yourself to standards, even when it would be easier not to. Many people chase success as a way to fix how they feel about themselves. They believe achievements will create worth, but the order is wrong. Self-respect comes first. When you respect yourself, you naturally behave in ways that lead to success. When you don't, even success feels unstable. Raising your self-respect starts with small decisions. You stop doing things that make you feel weak afterward. You stop tolerating behavior from yourself that you would not respect in others. You stop betraying your future for short-term comfort. This chapter is about restoring dignity in your daily life, not by impressing anyone, but by aligning your actions with your values. Every time you do what you said you would do, you build self-respect. Every time you avoid responsibility, you chip away at it. Self-respect also changes what you tolerate. You begin to notice what drains you, distracts you, or pulls you backward. You stop excusing environments and relationships that undermine your growth, not out of anger, but out of clarity. There will be moments when raising your self-respect feels uncomfortable. You may have to say no when you're used to saying yes. You may have to walk away from situations that once felt familiar. Growth often feels like loss before it feels like progress. Understand this clearly. Self-respect is not arrogance. It doesn't make you loud or superior. It makes you grounded. It makes you consistent. It makes you less reactive and more intentional. People with self-respect don't need to prove anything. When self-respect increases, discipline becomes easier. You stop asking, "Can I get away with this?" and start asking, "Is this aligned with who I'm rebuilding?" That question alone changes behavior. This chapter reminds you that rebuilding your life is not just about outcomes, it's about character. About becoming someone you can trust, someone you don't have to constantly motivate or monitor, someone who acts with quiet integrity. Success pursued without self-respect creates pressure and fear. Success built on self-respect creates stability and pride. One collapses under stress, the other endures. Raise your self-respect first. Protect it.